Hello, welcome to Uncommon Leadership. I'm Michael Hunter with Uncommon Teams. Today, I'm talking with Raphael Triemer. Roth helps founders scale their businesses by enhancing their customers' experiences. He's taking his nearly 2 decades of experience building relationships with customers and leading international teams at B2B SaaS and tech companies into a thriving solo practice. He has a talent for bringing a company together across and beyond departmental borders, showing his clients how to build great customer experiences by having them experience one of their own. Plus, he's fun, warm, and puts people before everything else. Welcome, Roth.
Thank you so much, Michael. What an introduction. Thank you.
In your journey to seeing people as people and learning to leverage their unique gifts to best accomplish your goals, what has had the biggest impact on your progress so far?
Well, so to me, it was, I think, a mix of 3 different things. So one is I have been lucky enough to find some mentors in my life that taught me some important lessons. I was not always on the same opinion with them, but I learned a lot from them. And then the second thing that was of the biggest impact for me in terms of leadership and everything is, well, doing it. Just trying it out, starting and learning by doing. And I am a big fan of asking for feedback from everybody, including my direct reports and the people, in business 360 surrounding me. And that gives me the most.
Yeah. Across all your experience and learning, what surprised you the most as you put all these experiments into practice?
Right. So let me think about that. That's a good question. What comes to mind most there is how powerful it is to be authentic. So that's said easily, but when I became a team leader, I had a couple of leadership trainings, and it's like a craft that you can learn, that you need to train, and all of that is right, and you should do that. Leading people is not something super sophisticated and you need to be born for it. I think that's not true. You can learn it. But if you want to have a team that is really following you, then you need to be authentic. And what I mean by that, and that was something for me personally, is at the beginning, I had that clear idea of how things should go and how things should be done. Hey, because I was an individual contributor, I did sales for a long period in time. And when I then went into leading a team of sellers, well, I had a specific opinion how to have conversations with customers, how to write an email, how to write that sentence, how to react to certain persons and the customer side. And that is good if you have junior people. They need to learn that from you. So that's all fine. But what I learned is to be authentic in a way that I can learn to delegate and just accept the fact that others are better in something than I am. And so that was one thing. And the other thing was I started becoming vulnerable. So putting myself out there. So there's that saying that resonate to some, I guess, that there are 2 parts, right? So business and then private. And you need to separate the two of them because they are not connected with each other. So I learned that, put the emotions aside, and I tried that hard, uh, and I wasn't really successful with it, because it took away from me so much. And then eventually I just ran out of gas to do it. So I became vulnerable involuntarily. So that I didn't do that on purpose, but I had to. I had to ask for things, and I had to say, "Well, I can't do that. You need to help me now." And then it started to click every now and then that I learned, oh wow, that is so powerful, and people want to help me. They want to be with me. And if I put myself out there and if I say, hey, I did that, it was a mistake. I didn't know that before. Now I know. And here's my idea how to get out of it. Let's move on. That gives a lot of power, to the people that surround you. And that is a big lesson that I learned, if that makes sense for you.
That absolutely makes sense. When you say that you came to this realization involuntarily,
Mm.
does that mean it showed up in a really awkward way?
Um, it was kind of a progress, so a process. So it didn't come like um like an epiphany or something like that. It was more things piling up, and you can't have everything under control. At least I can't. I'm just a human. And I remembered a bit back when I wasn't in business. I was, that might be a silly example, but I was leading together with my brother a choir when we have been teenagers. And that was, it was all put the emotions out there. So be yourself, be a human with everything that makes you you, right? And that is the most powerful thing. And whenever these things sort of started to just happen because my guard fell off sooner or later, I so to speak, I put down my mask, then it became powerful. And that was a process, and it takes, to me, at least to me, it took a lot of courage to do that on purpose, to say, hey, we are here together. It's all new for us. We want to build that together. I have that idea of where we want to go. Here are my 5 ideas. Now it's up to you. So then really delegate and put that trust into others, and they give it back to you.
100%. Yeah, completely agree. That matches entirely with my experience. And the reason I asked whether it that involuntary vulnerability showed up in a
Yeah.
really awkward way is that for sometimes when we try to partition off the our emotions and
Mm,
everything that's not what we think we're supposed to bring
mm,
into that work environment, that it can come bursting in at the
mhm.
worst possible times and in really awkward ways.
Right.
And for you, it sounds like if those experiences happened, they were lower key and not as embarrassing, which
Yeah,
I'm
true.
happy for you.
True. Yeah. I never had
That's
that super cruel situation where I was that big afterwards and then need to run and never come back. Well, there are always situations happening where I feel a little bit embarrassed. It's like, oh, come on, I could have done that better, really. Um, but that's how it is. It's a learning.
how do you handle those embarrassing situations?
So in the situation itself, it is what it is, right? It happened, cannot change it. But it's the same for any other situation as well. So first of all, I need to find out, hey, what really happened? And oftentimes it's rather simple. Like if I am associated, so to speak, with myself, I'm really into that situation, it can be really, really bad. But I learned to pull myself out of that situation a little bit, like having a little camera in my head that I can take, like a drone, and look top down into that situation and figure out how silly that whole situation is, and maybe give it a laugh. And then it is what it is. We all do mistakes. And when I started building teams from 0 to 50, I put a lot of effort in finding the right people. And there is always that one person that you need to have, at least in my world, that I need to have in my teams, that is doing bad jokes at the right time, because they can release so much tension if you have these awkward situations that it's getting so bad that everybody is giving it a short laugh, and then you can continue. That is so powerful. Yeah. So worst case is having a laugh about yourself.
What helped you start being able to have that separation and objectivity, to pull back in the moment and understand what's going on and make that shift?
Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think from a personality, I think quite a bit, and do some reflection on myself and thinking about what just happened after a situation. That always helped me, and that is kind of who I am. But then, like, it's 8 years ago, I started learning something that's called NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and that really helped me to figure out how I am wired between my two ears and how I process information and what I should do with it. So you go into the structure of events that are happening and do not be too much distracted of the contents. It might sound a little bit silly, but that is something that was so like eye-opening for me to really see and accept that, yeah, now I'm talking to you, Michael, but I can't judge who you are, right? But I can tell what I see, what I hear, what I smell, whatever. So I can take my senses, and that's really what's going on. And then I process it. So you have your landscape in your head of things, and I have it. Now, if I tell you something about NLP, then you might have a picture of it that is totally different than mine. But that sort of skill that I learned there helped me personally a lot to become better in reading situations and especially observing myself.
How do you bring all of this self-growth into helping your teams become comfortable and bring into practice this vulnerability and reflection and transparency?
Oh, I became very good in giving and taking feedback. So emotions are emotions, and every human has them. That's okay. But when it came to what is happening, what's going on, I learned to be very, very specific. And here is what I observed. This is how I saw it, how I perceived it, and here's what it made with me. So, what I would wish for next time is that you do that a little bit different and specifically in that way. So, that would help me to more easy ingest what you want to say to me, something like that. So, be very precise and very specific in giving and asking for feedback. So one thing that I started pretty much early on is whenever we have been in customer meetings, and we have been in a lot of customer meetings, I asked one of my team members, and it might be a really junior team member, you know what, you have one special task for that meeting today, maybe 2 or 3 hours. I want you to observe me and the client, and I want you to give me feedback afterwards. So where have I been good? Where have I been connected with the customer? And where did I lose them? And what did I do there? Do I have some, I don't know, some tics, something that is like off, some unconscious movements that I do, whatever it is, or unconscious words that I'm using all the time, and I don't even know it because it's a blind spot for me. You tell me, I want to learn from you, whoever you are. And that gave them the freedom to give me that feedback and then take it from me again. And that's it. And it's very simple. And it's one thing to mention here. It is then simple if I concentrated on only one thing. So I'm kind of a believer in micro changes. I don't believe in, hey, here are these 10 things that you did bad. No, I'm more a believer in, here is that one thing that is so you should really make that more often. That is so powerful if you do that. Like your smile, whatever it is. And then there is one thing, one word that I give as a present to you. Listen to yourself and listen how often you say that one word. And that might change already the behavior a lot. And then a month later, the next one is coming. And then the next one is coming. So little iterative steps and a lot of them.
There's so much genius in what you've just said. I love the idea of having someone, of tasking someone specifically with giving you feedback, because that demonstrates that your vulnerability, and it shows them that it's okay to give you feedback. Like you're telling them your job is to give you feedback, not just I welcome your feedback, but your whole job for the next few hours is to record and give me feedback. And so that gives them permission and empowers them in ways that just saying, give me all the feedback you have often doesn't. And then the focusing on one specific thing gives them, focuses their entire being on that one thing rather than trying to keep track of the 10 different pieces of feedback that might be coming on and trying to prioritize between those. It's crystal clear. This is the one thing that I really want you to understand about what I'm observing and right now.
Yeah, and that's enough. And if they change it, they likely changed more than if I would have said them 10 things.
Yeah. And even if they don't, they know, and you know, well, there is this one thing. And then you can probe into together, why didn't, you know, what was the impact that hearing this had on you? How is that changing you, even if that hasn't been intentional or conscious? What's going on for you receiving that feedback? that then you can help them process and make use of that feedback.
Correct. Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing for me was, so what I learned with that, it is sort of creating a habit of becoming better and of challenging each other in a very positive and energizing way. So you have these team meetings going on, and then you might have meetings where you sit together in the evening, then have a beer or two, and then you ask about these things and you talk about these things. Hey, I changed this habit. I learned a new habit, and that is that one thing. And if that is then spreading like a virus to the whole team, then everybody is thinking about that. Okay, here is something that I can learn from somebody else in the team, because yeah, everybody is very different, and we always had very specific characters in the team, and that's a thing that I love so much. And you need to have that, and I'm sorry to use that buzzword now, you have to have that diversity in a team, or that set of different characters that complete each other. And if I understand a team as one body, then you need to have these different parts. And that makes it a complete thing. And if that team would be just the same thing in 5 different, slightly different flavors, it would just be boring and not as good. And there is little you can learn from the others, and there is little new feedback that you will get. So you want to have different things in it, and you want to, change it piece by piece.
Absolutely. I love that image of a team as a body, because our bodies are made up of a million different pieces, and some of those
Correct.
are teeny tiny. And yet, without each of those pieces, the body isn't as capable and may not even be able to survive for very long, depending. While other pieces we can make do without them, but we're going to suffer in certain ways, and it's going to impair our abilities in
Yeah,
specific
true.
ways.
True.
What has been your biggest struggle as you've moved along this journey?
Oh, big question. um, Maybe I can pick there one specific situation that I had a while ago. That was when I was in an American company, but I am still living in Germany, and I ever lived here. So the situation I came across was the cultural differences between US corporations, quote unquote, and German corporations and their culture and how they understand people. Now, the big challenge that we faced was that the American leadership, they came to the German team and asked them for solutions. Now, this team never learned that. So what they learned is to be very, very specific in describing a problem. That was their job, right? And then you had that one side that was just asking, don't waste my time, just tell me what I need to do and I will make it happen so we can move on. And the other team was there and said, all right, so here's what's wrong, here's what's not working, and here's why, la, 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 very detailed and very long-winded if you wanted. So bring that together. So I found myself then in a situation that was already a bit heated when I came in there, and I needed to build quickly a bridge between two very different cultures, because both of them mean it good, right? But it's so different that there have been situations where they didn't even realize that they talk to each other, but that they talk about totally different things, and from very different angles that you can't connect. So my major challenge was there to really get very personally, be on site, have one-on-ones and understand what's behind all that, and then literally translate that into something that is digestible by the leadership team coming from the US. That was a journey. And I say that this was a challenge for me because before that, I have been in European, mostly German companies. And I thought, hey, American and European culture it's the same basically, but it's not. And I learned sort of the hard way how different that is.
What helped you through that challenge of identifying what the problem was and then building a bridge between those two very different intents?
Well, so one, it was simply my job to do it. So let's do it, right? I'm tasked with it. So go forward. And then uh, I knew sort of both sides, quote unquote. And I love the people in Germany and the US people, same. They have been just different. So I took it as a big learning challenge for me. And I wanted to dive into these cultural differences. And I took it really as my personal challenge. And how can I solve it? It's like a puzzle that I want to have solved, piece by piece, element by element, not overthinking it, which is sometimes a challenge for me personally as well, but really be very pragmatic, very down to earth. That was it. It's quite easy, and it was the same pattern again to me. It is, well, the first thing is understand, also recognize, understand, and accept what's really going on. So I started, no, I didn't start. That's just a regular practice that I'm taking time in everything that I do, in every interaction, to not just listen to the contents, but also have a look at what's going on structurally. And that helps me to often understand what's really going on. What's the problem behind all these symptoms that you hear if you listen to contents? And if I recognize and accept what the problem is, then half of the job is already done. The rest is mostly easy because then you just find a solution for it. Done.
That acceptance, I find, is often the hardest piece by far.
100%. Yeah. Accept, okay, that thing is what is broken. It doesn't feel good. It's kind of awkward. It's silly. But if it is that, then, well, get it out of the way and move forward.
How have you found helps you help your teams accept what the problem is?
Talk about it. So I take an example again. I have been building teams of different flavor. And one team that I mean here specifically was a post-sales team. So everything coming after signature, professional services, customer success, everything. And with growth are coming a lot of changes and are coming a lot of tensions. So conflicts between different parties. And there was a lot of back and forth. So what I did with my leader team was to figure out what we believe is the root cause for all these struggles, if you want to call it that. And that was to us how we dealt with conflicts internally. So we met in one place. We put together the whole team, and it was a 2-day workshop. And the good first half day, we only worked on what is a conflict. Why is conflict a good thing? And how do you handle conflicts? So how can you change perspectives and, not being bugged by conflict because, again, and he did that again, or this again. But, pulling energy out of it, because only conflict is bringing you sort of development, because only something is slightly off, you correct course. And that is called conflict. The conflict is you can't go in that direction that you think you should go. Something is hindering you. So that's a conflict. So that's a good thing if you know that that's it. So there is a course correct, and then you can go again. And that was enlightening for a lot. And it was really simple. In most cases, it's really find out what is the most simplest, the most direct way to address something. And then take that one thing and work on that and ignore all the complexities, because there's so much going on that you could use to be distracted. But if you ignore all that and just focus on that one core thing, then the team will figure out the rest. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, thank you. How do you recognize that you found the one thing versus you're still really looking at 10 things and you have more refining to do and focusing to do to get to what the one thing is?
So we had a couple of iterations in the leadership team, and we asked a little bit for feedback. So it's a lot of observing and then find out patterns. So there are a lot of situations again and again and again. And then we took some time to figure out, so what are the patterns that we see again and again and again? And then start to figure out, so why do we have these patterns? What's really happening there? And then it is, to be fair, a good amount of just guesswork. So there are always different things in it. But what just needs some sort of, might be experience, might be just gut feel, intuition on, okay, so what is the one thing that we believe in? So if we changed it, it would make a huge, or maybe the biggest impact of habit changes, for instance. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, do we believe that it is easy to accomplish? So you don't want to start with the hardest thing. You don't want, that might be the most significant and maybe even the most important. But if I don't believe that I and my team can fix it, then I rather not do it. And I focus something where I believe, okay, if we make that now, that still makes a huge difference and we can be successful with it. And if you are successful with one change, then it is way more easy to go for the next one.
Absolutely. This has been a great conversation today, Ross.
Thank you.
What else should I ask you?
Well, you could ask me why I have that family picture here behind me.
Why do you have the family photos behind you?
That's my lockdown bonus that I gave to myself. Yeah, so I was always a person being a lot traveling to customers, for instance, and that changed. And then the lockdowns came. And I was sitting in that very office here all the time. And I was staring at my own background all the time. And I was thinking, in all these Zoom meetings, gosh, that is so, I don't know, it's like boring, it's disappointing to always see that same thing. So I then had that great idea of just, search for some of my biggest things that I love. So that is cycling with my daughter. She was, that picture, she was like 3 or so. And then we have the caravan there. That's our way of doing holidays. So we go out there with a caravan and call it a vacation. So I just, have that there for me. So that's a little motivation for me, even in the most boring meetings. And, it is part of what makes me me. And that's again, sort of being authentic and showing that. So I'm not only that businessman, I'm not only that leader, I am as well a father and a husband. And yes, I love cycling and I love being out in the nature. That's part of me. So feel free to ask me about it.
That's great. It makes that visible for you. So it brings that into all the meetings for you, because you always see that in the background of your self image.
Yeah, that's not made up, right? That's not made up specifically to pretend to be someone. That's just me. That's what it is.
It brings you into your space in every meeting, and then it also brings these other aspects of you into that meeting space for everyone else. And even if they don't consciously realize that this is happening, having that in the background and seeing these other aspects of you is coloring their impression of who you are and directly impacting the way that they interact and understand you and what you're saying and doing.
Yeah, might be true. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's lovely. If people would like to get in contact with you to learn more about cycling and caravanning, or your ways of being vulnerable and authentic and all the other wonderful things we talked about today, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I think the easiest thing is to find me on LinkedIn. Raphael Triemer on LinkedIn. I guess there is just one guy with that name out there. And the second thing would be my website, which is Triemer, which is my last name, .consulting. And I guess you will put some links in the description of the podcast.
I'll have those links in the show notes. And for people watching the video, your name is right there in the bottom left corner of your image, so they can get it through there as well. What would you like to leave our audience today with?
Right. So there is, I guess, one thing that I want to leave your audience. So if you are a leader, would I strongly recommend to every single leader out there, maybe to every person, but to people in leadership positions specifically, is figure out what your personal values are and write them down. And don't stop at writing down being brave or whatever it is. So don't stop there. Translate them into action. Think about specific situations. So how would you handle a specific situation based on your values? And write that down. And then the minimum that you should do on a daily basis, whatever you do, is at least to be mindful of the fact if you are living up to your own values, or if you are bending them, or if you are maybe even compromise them hardly. So the least thing that you should do to yourself and to your health is, well, just recognizing that this is happening the one way or the other way, because that made a big difference for me, at least, to be specific and about, hey, these are my very personal values. And this is how these values translate into action, into my habits, into my behavior, and then figure out what you should do to live up to your own values the most in each and every single day. That's that one thing.
Thank you for that wonderful one thing. And thank you, audience, for being with us today. Please let us know what resonated with you, what maybe didn't. What would you like to know more about? What do you agree with? What do you never want to hear about again? And what do you completely disagree with? Raf and I want to know. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us on Uncommon Leadership today. If you found these stories interesting, inspiring, and illuminating, sign up for my newsletter. Hop over to uncommonteams.com and use the form at the top of every page. You'll be the first to know about every new episode of Uncommon Leadership. You'll also discover how you can build uncommon teams. If you'd like to chat about doing that yourself, email me, michael@uncommonteams.com, or use the contact form on my website. Thanks so much.